Section 4, Chapter 6, page 551. 6.2, Cessation of Suffering. Long format. Before we can solve problems, however long or trivial these problems may be, we must first understand them accurately. If not, they may become more complex and severe. To effectively resolve life's dilemmas, we must understand each dilemma, as well as the conditions giving rise to it. This is especially true when dealing with life's fundamental problems. We must know suffering and the causes that bring about suffering. We must have the understanding of the truth, which is the essential factor for bringing an end to all suffering. A misunderstanding of the truth, on the other hand, creates problems. It results in people's attempted solutions, having an effect in counter to the desired effect, and further intensifying suffering. Now, the origin cycle, the creation of suffering, begins with avijjā, ignorance. Then volitional activities, saṅkhāra, creates consciousness, viññāṇa, moves to mentality and corporeality, nāma-rūpa, adds on to the six sense bases, saḷāyatana, or the six doors, creates contact, phassa, develops feeling, vedanā, embellished by craving, taṇhā, and attaches to clinging, upādāna, give rise to becoming bhava. From the rise of becoming, eventually birth, jāti, then aging and death, jarāmaraṇa, sorrow, soka, lamentation, parideva, pain, dukkha, grief, domanassa, eventually despair, upāyāsa. These 12 factors are the origin of suffering, dukkha-samudaya. Now this cycle is from starts with avijjā to upāyāsa. The reverse cycle, anuloma form, is the cessation cycle, which brings the extinguishing or absence of ignorance. If ignorance ceases, volitional activity ceases, conscious ceases, mental and corporality ceases. Your six sense doors, the entryways, ceases, contact ceases. Feeling doesn't arise, it ceases. Craving doesn't arise, it ceases. Attachment, longing, and desiring for, clinging ceases. Becoming ceases. Birth ceases. Aging, death, sorrow, despair cease. This is the cessation of dukkha, dukkha-nirodha. The word nirodha, sensation, does not merely mean that something comes to an end, but also that it cannot reappear or function in the future. It is prevented from arising. It is called detoxified. The term patichamupata nirodhavara means the ending of existent suffering and the prevention of further suffering, a process in which suffering does not arise. The expression ignorance ceases, both the end of existing ignorance and non-arising of future ignorance. It refers to knowledge, avijjā, to freedom from ignorance, avijjā. Now the short format, both with the origin cycle and the cessation cycle shown above, are expressed in the long format. With all 12 constituent factors, each cycle proceeds in consecutive order until the factors are complete. However, these cycles are not always shown in this way with the entire sequence of the 12 factors. In the Tipitaka, the Pali Canon, there are passages where practical application where Gautama Buddha presented a process observable in daily life. The structure of these shortened formats depends on the point on which a problem begins or with the aspect in which to emphasize. The short formats of the origin cycle begins with cognition at the sixth sense basis, āyatana, and then proceeds to as unbroken chains to aging and death, sorrow and despair. The initial part of the process from avijjā up to āyatana, saḷāyatana, the sixth sense basis, is omitted as it is inherent influence is understood. The short format of the cessation cycles begins with the cessation of craving and the initial contact and feeling. So the cycles of patisamupata either has a long format starting with avijjā and so forth, and then ending with jarāmaraṇa and dukkha, or we could just do the short format, start with the sixth sense basis, the door of āyatana, saḷāyatana, the sixth sense doors, and we could end with and we end from the middle to jarāmaraṇa, soka, despair, and so forth. Now, in the context of nirodha, the long format beginning with the cessation of avijjā is the most commonly used when explaining nirodha vara. In the first three formats, the complete sequence is shown. But in the fourth format, a shorter sequence is present, and this will be discussed soon. Now, the short format for the origin cycle begins with cognition in the sixth sense basis, and then it proceeds to unbroken chains, to aging and death, sorrow and despair. Here are the two examples from the Tipitaka, from the Pali Canon, of the short format. Monks, a child grows up and his faculties mature still further. The youth enjoys himself provided and endowed with 5 strands of sensual pleasure, with rūpa, form, sounds, odors, flavors, tangible objects that are wished for, desired, agreeable, enduring, connected with sensual desire, and provocative of lust. On seeing a form with the eye, hearing a sound with the ear, smelling an odor with the nose, tasting a flavor with the tongue, touching a tangible object with the body, cognizing a mind object with the mind. He is fond of it, it is pleasing, he dislikes it, it is displeasing. He abides with mindfulness of the body unestablished with inferior, undeveloped mind. He does not understand as it actually is, deliverance of mind, deliverance by paññā, wisdom, wherein evil, unwholesome states cease without remainder. Engaged as he is in flavoring and opposing whatever feeling he feels, whatever pleasant or painful, neither pleasant nor painful, he is gratified by that feeling, vedanā. He broods over and welcomes it and submits to it. As he does so, delight, infatuation arises in him. Now, delight in feeling is clinging. With his attachment and his clinging as a condition, becoming arises. With becoming as condition, birth. With birth as condition, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair come to be. Such is the origin of the fruits of the whole mass of suffering. Bhikkhus, monks, what is the origin of dukkha? Depending on the eye and forms, I consciousness arises. The union of these three is contact. With contact as condition, there is feeling. With feeling as condition, there is craving. This is the origin of suffering. The same for the ear, the nose, the tongue, body, and mind. Selecting the principal elements in the above text of the origination cycle can be shown as follows. 6 sense bases: contact, feeling, delight, clinging, becoming, birth, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair, and the arising of dukkha. Or 6 sense bases: contact, feeling, craving, the arising of dukkha. These two examples are essentially the same. They both begin with cognition at the 6 sense bases. This is the short form. The first example presents the process up to the end. The second example presents the process only up to craving. The remainder is to be inferred. Now, the two examples of the cessation cycle, according to the short format, the aforementioned child has studied and practiced the Dhamma, consisting of moral conduct and sense restraint, developed concentration absorption of jhana, on seeing a form with the eye, cognizing a mind object with the mind. He is not fond to it if it is pleasing. He is not annoyed with it if it is displeasing. He abides with mindfulness of the body established, with a developed, immeasurable mind. He understands as it actually is deliverance of the mind, deliverance by viññāṇa, wherein those evil, unwholesome states cease without remainder. Having thus abandoned flavoring and opposing whatever feeling he feels, whatever pleasant or painful or neither pleasant nor painful, he is not gratified by that feeling. He does not welcome it or submit to it, as he does not do so. Delight, infatuation, and feeling ceases in him. With the cessation of his delight becomes cessation of clinging. With the cessation of clinging, cessation of becoming. With the cessation of becoming, cessation of birth. With the cessation of birth, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, grief, and despair ceases. Such is the cessation of the whole mass of dukkha. Bhikkhus, what is the passing away of dukkha? Depending on the I and the form, I consciousness arises. The unit of these three is contact. With contact as condition, there is feeling. With feeling as condition, there is craving. Because that craving ceases and it is extinguished without remainder, clinging ceases. With the cessation of clinging, becoming ceases. With the cessation of becoming, birth ceases. With the cessation of birth, age and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair, in this way, the entire mass of suffering ceases. This is the passing away of dukkha. The same is for the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind. Based on these two texts, the cessation cycle, nāma-rūpa cycle, can be depicted as follows. Short format. Starting with the 6 sense basis, going into contact, giving rise to feeling, being aware of the delight ceases, clinging ceases, becoming ceases, birth ceases, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, affliction ceases, the cessation of dukkha. Or secondly, starting with the 6 sense basis, contact, feeling, craving. Craving ceases, clinging ceases, becoming ceases, birth ceases, aging and death, sorrow, affliction, and the cessation of suffering. So they're both the same. The only difference is one would be delight, the other one would be craving. The first example presents all components of the short format, but in reverse form to the origination cycle. The second example begins the same way as the example 2 of the origination cycle above. But where the origination cycle ends at craving, here the process changes course and completes the cycle of cessation. These two examples are essentially the same. They both demonstrate a severance of the cycle following initial cognition and feeling. As a result, the delight or craving is prevented from arising and suffering ceases. Note the meaning of delight, nāti, in the first passage is similar to that of taṇhā in the second. The meaning differs only slightly, suited to the context of the first passage. It is great to note that also the expression delight ceases. An example, one indicates clearly that delight does not arise. There is no delight, infatuation. One can apply this passage to the two. Unlike the origination cycle where taṇhā, craving, arises subsequent to initial cognition and feeling, craving is now uprooted. The cycle is broken and the subsequent factors do not arise. The cessation of dukkha is accomplished. Although the short format of saṅkhāra and vivata do not mention ignorance, avijjā, the notion of ignorance is integral to both the origin and the cessation cycle. When a feeling is experienced in the origination cycle, taṇhā arises as the results not fully comprehending the truth about the object encountered. That is impermanent, anicca, subject to distress, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. These three are the three characteristics. Tilakkana. That it cannot be truly held on to as one's own. Also, a person does not know how the object is beneficial or harmful. He cognizes with ignorance, avijjā sampassa. The feeling ensues from such contact give rise to craving. In contrast, when a feeling is experienced, the cessation cycle, craving does not arise because the conditioned nature of the object is fully understood. With knowledge as a basis, cognition occurs in a way not influenced by ignorance. Contact and feeling then do not lead to craving. The expression craving ceases implies the cessation of ignorance. Here, the short format indirectly points to the cessation of ignorance by highlighting the cessation of craving. This is analogous to Gautama Buddha's concise definition of the second and the third noble truths. Craving is the cause of suffering, and the end of suffering occurs when the end of craving. Gautama Buddha used this way of speaking for practical reasons to illustrate the path, magga, and its immediate benefits. The key feature of cessation in both the long and short formats is the breaking of the sequence. Generally, the sequence is broken at one or two junctures. The primary break is the ignorance, and the secondary break is craving, breaking the cycle of these two types. Directly at ignorance and indirectly at taṇhā, craving, in either case, the break is made must include the elimination of ignorance, avijjā. One of the cycle is broken, the round of rebirths, samsara ends. The process of turning away is reached, and freedom from dukkha is attained. A person thus vanishes all life's troubles and without sorrow and affliction. He or she has true happiness, arriving at knowledge, liberation, vimutti, purity, visuddhi, and peace, santi, and nibbana. This is the highest benefit that human beings can obtain, making life worthwhile.